The biggest sign a woman is thinking about you isn't a text message at 10 p.m. It's not a like on your Instagram story from 3 years ago. The most honest, unfiltered, and deeply human sign is how her body betrays her when you're right there, in the same space, breathing the same air. Her body will tell you everything her words are too shy, too polite, or too guarded to say. And the absolute truth, the thing that keeps me making these videos, is that most men, even the best and kindest men, completely miss it. They're looking, but they're not seeing. I can't talk about this without remembering this one specific first date I went on a few years ago. It was at this cozy, dimly lit coffee shop. The kind with mismatched armchairs and the constant smell of roasted espresso beans. The guy, let's call him Mark, was great on paper. He was an architect, he was smart, he had a kind smile in his photos, and our initial messages had been witty and engaging. So I was hopeful, but also incredibly nervous. That kind of nervous where you feel like a live wire, buzzing with a mix of excitement and terror. He was even better in person. He was talking about a building he was designing, his hands sketching invisible blueprints in the air, his eyes lit up with passion. I was completely captivated. And as he spoke, I found myself fidgeting, just constantly, unconsciously playing with the little silver necklace I always wear. I was twisting the delicate chain around my finger, pulling the clasp from the back of my neck to the front and pushing it back again. I wasn't bored. I was trying to anchor myself. All this nervous, excited energy was surging through me, and my body, without my permission, had found a tiny, repetitive task to pour it into. After about 20 minutes of this, he paused mid-sentence, his smile faded a little, and he said, "Look, if you're bored, you can just say so. No hard feelings." I felt my face flush with heat. My heart just sank into my stomach. Bored? I was the absolute opposite of bored. I was so engaged, so interested, so mentally leaning in that my body had basically short-circuited. He had seen my fidgeting, this raw, unfiltered signal of my attraction, and completely misinterpreted it as a sign of disinterest. He saw a closed door where there was a wide open one. We managed to recover the date, but that initial moment of misunderstanding always stuck with me. And that's when it clicked for me, with crystal clarity. What men often write off as random habits, as quirks, as simple nervousness, are actually the sparks of real interest trying to find an outlet. These aren't secret codes you need to crack like you're some kind of spy. They are quiet, vulnerable invitations to connect. And learning to see them for what they are, well, that is the difference between a connection that fizzles out in misunderstanding and one that catches fire. So today, we're going to take a deep dive into 9 of those subtle, powerful, and often subconscious signals that show she's not just in the room with you, she's thinking about you. We're going to explore the why behind them with real stories from my life and my friends' lives. And stick with me, because the last one, number 9, is the one that is so beautifully honest because it's the one we absolutely cannot control, no matter how hard we try. First, let's talk about the signals I call the unconscious broadcast. This is what happens when her internal emotional state becomes too much to contain, and it starts leaking out through her small, repetitive physical actions. This isn't a performance for you. It's her body trying to manage its own energy. Sign number 1, she fidgets when you're near. This is ground zero, the signal my date Mark so spectacularly misunderstood. This isn't the bored kind of fidgeting, like tapping a pen in a long meeting or checking your watch. This is a very specific brand of restless energy. It's when she starts playing with her jewelry, like I was, or repeatedly smoothing down her clothes, picking at her cuticles, or even just shifting her weight from foot to foot when she's standing near you. It looks like restlessness, but it's a physical manifestation of an internal emotional surge. My best friend Sarah is the absolute queen of this. When she's on a date with a guy she's genuinely excited about, her hands are never, ever still. She has these little silver hoop earrings, and she will mess with them constantly, taking them off and putting them back on, twisting them. She told me she once went on a date and the guy, in this incredibly smooth and observant way, gently smiled and said, "Those are beautiful earrings. I'm just worried you're going to wear them out by the end of the night." And Sarah said in that moment, she just melted. because he didn't call her out or make her feel weird. He showed her that he was paying attention, that he noticed her, and he did it with a charm that acknowledged her nervous energy and calmed it at the same time. That is how you respond to this signal. So, how do you tell the difference between her being into you and her just being an anxious person? Two things. First, look for the clusters. Is she just fidgeting, or is she also making prolonged eye contact and smiling? Signals in isolation can be misleading. Signals in clusters are a pattern. Second, the pro tip I mentioned before, watch what happens when you step away for a moment. If you excuse yourself to the restroom or to grab a drink, and you glance back and see her suddenly still, calm, maybe scrolling on her phone with a relaxed posture, then you were the trigger for that energy. You were the charge in the air. Sign number 2, she plays with her hair. I know. This sounds like the oldest cliche in a cheesy rom-com, but please hear me out. It has become a cliche for a reason, because it is one of the most real, primal, and instinctive things a woman does when she feels a pull of attraction. When she's talking to you and you see her twirling a strand of hair or brushing it back over her shoulder, or just gently smoothing it down, she's not just fixing it. It's happening on a much deeper, subconscious level. On one hand, she's framing her face. She is literally, physically, moving anything that might be an obstruction out of the way. It's a gesture that says, see me. I want you to see me clearly. On another level, it's a form of preening. It's this very primal, animal instinct to groom ourselves when a potential mate is nearby. She wants to look her best for you, and her body is taking unconscious steps to make that happen. But there's a third layer, which is the comfort mechanism. If you make her a little nervous in that good, exciting, butterflies in the stomach way, her hands will instinctively find their way to her hair as a way to self-soothe. It's a familiar, calming sensation that helps her manage that fluttery tension. I remember being on a date once where the conversation was so incredibly good, we were just flowing from one topic to the next. I was so lost in his stories and his questions that, without even realizing it, I had started slowly, methodically braiding a tiny little piece of my hair by my ear. I only noticed when he paused, smiled, and said, "What are you making over there?" I was so embarrassed, but it was the clearest sign of how comfortable and intensely focused I was. It's a delicate and fascinating dance between look at me and oh my God, you're looking at me. Sign number 3, she touches her neck or collarbone. This is one of the most subtle and yet most powerful signals in this category. The neck, the collarbone, the little hollow at the base of the throat, these are surprisingly vulnerable and intimate parts of the body. When a woman unconsciously draws attention to these areas in your presence, it's a complex and beautiful signal. She might adjust a necklace that doesn't need adjusting. She might lightly graze her collarbone with her fingertips while she's listening to you. Or she might run her hand over the back of her neck while she's talking. There's some fascinatingly simple science here. Touching the neck, especially the sides and the back, can stimulate the vagus nerve, which is a core part of our nervous system that helps to calm us down. So, when she does this, her body is literally saying, "You're having an exciting or stimulating effect on me, and I am unconsciously trying to regulate and calm myself down." What a potent combination. I'll never forget a time a man I had a huge crush on gave me a very specific, thoughtful compliment. It wasn't about my appearance. It was about an idea I had shared in a meeting. Later that day, he came over to my desk and said, "What you said in there was brilliant. You really changed the way I was thinking about that project." My face instantly got hot, and my hand flew up to my neck, resting right on my pulse point. I was flustered, I was seen, I was thrilled, and my body reacted before my brain could even form a sentence. It's a gesture of slight shyness, but it's also a display of trust. It's her saying, "I am comfortable enough with you to expose my vulnerability." If this is starting to connect some dots for you, and you're enjoying this deep dive, do me a quick favor and hit that subscribe button. We have these kinds of honest, in-depth conversations every single week, and I'd love for you to be a part of them. Okay, let's move on to the next set of signals. I call this group the gravitational pull. This is when it's no longer just about small, nervous gestures. This is when her entire body, her physical presence in the room, starts to orient itself toward you as if you have your own magnetic field. Sign number 4, she leans closer to you. Personal space is a sacred and invisible boundary we all carry around us. Think of it in zones. There's the public zone, the social zone, the personal zone, and finally, the intimate zone. We don't let people move from one zone to the next unless we feel safe, curious, and deeply interested. When a woman is genuinely attracted to you, she will consistently find ways to shrink the distance, to invite you from the social zone into the personal. This isn't just about leaning in to hear you in a noisy bar, although that's part of it. It's about the quality of the lean. I was at a loud concert with a friend once, trying to talk to a guy during a break between bands. It was almost impossible to hear. But instead of just shouting, he turned his entire body to face me, angled himself slightly away from the crowd, and created a small, protected space for us. He leaned in, which made me feel comfortable leaning in, too. We were suddenly in our own little bubble. That is how you respond to the signal. You meet it and create a shared space. Look for it in quieter settings, too. If you're sitting at a table, does she lean her upper body across it, resting her chin on her hands? She's literally cutting the distance between you in half. Pay attention to how she positions herself in a group. If there are other open seats, but she consistently chooses the one right next to you, she's making a deliberate choice. She wants to be within your orbit. Her body, driven by her emotions, is being physically pulled in your direction. Sign number 5, her feet point toward you. This is one of my all-time favorite tells because it's one most men never, ever think to look for, and it is brutally honest. While we are all masters of controlling our facial expressions to be polite, nobody is actively thinking about what their feet are doing. Our feet, subconsciously, point where we want to go. They are the compass of our intention. You can be in a group setting, and she might be turned to speak to the person on her other side. She's laughing, she's nodding, she's being a polite conversationalist. But if her feet, or even just one of her feet, are still angled directly in your direction, that's where her brain wants to be. That's where her focus is. I once witnessed the most perfect example of this at a friend's barbecue. My friend, let's call her Maya, was totally mesmerized by this new guy, but she got cornered by an acquaintance who wanted to tell her a long, uninteresting story about his job. The whole time, for a solid 10 minutes, Maya's upper body was politely angled toward the storyteller. She was smiling, nodding, but her feet, hidden under the table, were locked in the new guy's direction like magnets. She was a polite prisoner, and her feet were betraying her escape plan. On the flip side, if you're talking to a woman and her feet are angled away, especially towards an exit like a door, that can be a powerful signal that she's distracted or looking for a way to end the conversation. Your feet are your escape route, and hers will tell you if she's looking to take it. Sign number 6, she mirrors your actions. Mirroring is one of the most fascinating and powerful psychological signs of deep rapport and connection. It's when she unconsciously mimics your posture, your gestures, or even your speech patterns. It's not conscious imitation. It's her brain's automatic way of saying, we're on the same wavelength. I am in sync with you. The first time I really understood this, I was on a date that was going exceptionally well. He took a slow, deliberate sip of his old-fashioned, and I noticed a moment later, I was taking an equally slow sip of my wine. He leaned forward on his elbows to tell a story, and I saw that I had also leaned forward, mirroring his posture exactly. He had this low, warm chuckle, and I found myself smiling in the exact same rhythm as his laugh. It wasn't copying. It was harmony. It was this unspoken physical dance that confirmed the mental and emotional connection we were both feeling. This goes deeper than just body language. She might mirror your emotions. If you share something you're excited about and your face lights up, she'll reflect that same excitement. If you drop your voice to a more serious, vulnerable tone, her expression may soften to match your gravity. Why does this happen? Because when we are emotionally invested in someone, our subconscious wants to close any gaps between us. It wants to stay perfectly aligned. And if she's mirroring you, it means she's not just listening to your words. She's deeply tuned into your entire vibe. Okay, now for the final 3 signs. These are what I call the uncontrollable giveaways. This is when the emotion becomes so strong that it bypasses all her social filters and her body reacts with pure, raw honesty. These are the signals that are almost impossible to fake and incredibly difficult to hide. Sign number 7, her eyes linger on you. They say the eyes are the windows to the soul, and when it comes to attraction, that couldn't be more true. Eye contact is a fundamental part of communication, but when attraction is in the air, the rules change entirely. She won't just make eye contact, she'll hold it for a beat longer than is socially required. It's in that extra half second of a held gaze that a universe of meaning is exchanged. It's a silent acknowledgement that says, I see you and I'm not looking away. Or she might do the classic glance and flee. She'll catch your eye from across the room, feel a jolt of electricity, get flustered, and quickly look away, maybe with a small, shy smile. But then, a moment later, her eyes will dart back to see if you're still looking. That dart back is everything. It means she's thinking about that moment of connection, and she's curious if you felt it too. I was at a bookstore once, my favorite quiet place, and I saw a man in the history section. There was just something about him. We made eye contact over a row of books, and instead of immediately looking away like I normally would, I felt this rush of courage. I held his gaze for a long second and gave the tiniest hint of a smile. He smiled back, a real, genuine smile. That one moment of sustained eye contact gave him all the permission he needed to walk over and start a conversation. And then there's the most intimate signal of all, the eye-to-lips triangle. If you are talking and you notice her gaze shifting from your eyes, down to your lips, and then back up to your eyes, that is one of the most primal, subconscious cues in the book. Her brain is literally mapping a path to intimacy. She's listening to your words, but she's thinking about your mouth. It's a signal that she's imagining something more, even if she herself is barely aware of it. If you notice her cheeks warming up when you walk into the room, when you give her a genuine compliment, or when you lean in close to tell her something, that's not a random fluctuation in temperature. That is her body exposing the very emotions she might be trying her best to hide. I had one of the most embarrassing but sweetest blushes of my life in college. I had a huge crush on this guy in my literature class. One day, after class, I was talking to my friend about him, saying how I thought his comments on the reading were so insightful. I didn't realize he was just a few feet away, packing up his bag, and had heard every word. He walked over with this kind, knowing little smile on his face and said, "Thanks, Olivia. I thought what you said was pretty smart, too." My face didn't just blush, it went supernova. I felt like a tomato. But in that moment of complete mortification, a connection was made. My blush had told him everything I was too shy to say. It's a moment of vulnerability that is impossible to fake and incredibly endearing to witness. Sign number 9, she focuses on her lips. This final one is so subtle, but so incredibly telling. When a woman is drawn to you, her lips often become an unconscious focal point of her body language. These aren't overt, dramatic gestures. They are small, fleeting, and packed with meaning. You might notice her gently biting her lower lip when you say something particularly funny or charming. It's a tiny, nervous habit that releases a bit of tension and simultaneously draws your eye. Or you might see her slowly lick her lips while she's listening to you. This can be a subconscious response to a dry mouth caused by nerves, but it's also a deeply primal signal of anticipation. My friend once came back from a date and was just glowing. She said, "I don't know what was wrong with me. I was so nervous and I couldn't stop thinking about kissing him, and I realized I had reapplied my lipstick 3 separate times in the bathroom. It was ridiculous." It wasn't ridiculous. It was her subconscious preparing her lips for a kiss she was already fantasizing about. Even something as simple as her lips being slightly parted when she's listening to you can be a sign. It's a signal of openness, of receptivity, of being so captivated by what you're saying that she's forgotten to close her mouth. When you see these signals, especially combined with that eye-to-lips triangle we talked about, she is not just thinking about your words. She is thinking about kissing you. Okay, this is the most important part of the entire video. You've been paying attention. You've noticed a few of these signs. She's fidgeting with her earrings, her feet are pointed towards you, and she held your gaze for that extra second. What do you actually do with that information? How do you turn observation into connection? The answer is a simple 3-step framework: observe, validate, and reciprocate. Step 1, observe. This is what we've been talking about. It's about being present. It's about putting your phone away, getting out of your own head, and paying genuine, curious attention to the person in front of you. This isn't about scanning her like a robot, checking boxes on a list. It's about seeing her as a whole person and noticing the subtle ways her energy is showing up. Step 2, validate internally. This is a crucial step that most men skip. When you notice a signal, your first job is not to react, but to simply acknowledge it in your own mind. See it for what it is: a green light, a sign of interest, a small offering of vulnerability. Don't immediately jump to, what do I say? What do I do? Just take a quiet breath and think, okay, she seems comfortable. She seems interested. This is good. This internal validation calms your own nerves and allows you to act from a place of confidence, not anxiety. And please, whatever you do not call her out on it. Saying, "Hey, I noticed your pupils are dilated," or "you keep touching your neck," doesn't make you look observant. It makes you look like a creepy amateur psychologist. It makes her feel analyzed, not attracted. Step 3, reciprocate. This is where you turn your observation into action. Reciprocation is about meeting her where she is. It's about responding to her quiet invitation with a quiet invitation of your own. The goal is to make her feel safe, seen, and encouraged. Let's make this practical. If you see the unconscious broadcast, fidgeting, hair playing, neck touching, don't say, "You seem nervous." Do give her a warm, calming smile. Soften your own body language. Ask her a question that takes the pressure off, something that gets her talking about a passion, not a stressful topic like work. Something like, "So, aside from all this, what's something you're really excited about lately?" You are calming her energy by showing you are a safe person to be excited around. If you see the gravitational pull, leaning in, feet pointing at you, don't pull back to test her or make her chase you. That's playing games. Dio, meet her halfway. If she leans in, you lean in too. Lower your own voice just a little to create a more intimate atmosphere. Turn your body to close off the outside world and create a bubble just for the two of you. You are acknowledging her advance by creating a shared, private space. FUC, the uncontrollable giveaways, lingering eyes, blushing. Don't look away quickly or ignore the moment because it feels intense. Do hold the gaze. This is so important. When she gives you that extra beat of eye contact, give it right back to her with a soft, genuine smile. You don't need to say a word. You are both acknowledging the electricity in that moment without having to awkwardly verbalize it. You're showing her you're not afraid of that intensity. You welcome it. Reciprocating her signals is a dance. She takes a small step, you take a small step. You're building a bridge of connection, one subtle signal at a time. So let's bring this all home. This has never been about learning a list of tricks to read women. This is about learning to listen to a beautiful and honest language that is spoken without a single word. It's about developing your emotional intelligence and your powers of observation. In a world that encourages us to be distracted and self-absorbed, choosing to be present and truly attentive to another person is a radical act. It's a superpower. When you can trade your own anxiety for attentiveness, you stop second-guessing. You stop living in your head, wondering, does she like me? And you start being present in the moment, seeing the clear signals she's already giving you. You stop missing the invitations. And that is what I want for you. Now, this is where you come in. This is a conversation, not a lecture. I genuinely want to hear from you. Men, what's the most confusing or subtle signal you've ever received from a woman that you only understood in hindsight? What was the aha moment for you? And for the incredible women in our community, please help the guys out. What's one thing you do when you're interested that you consistently feel men miss? Let's get a real, honest, and helpful dialogue going in the comments below. I promise you, I read them and they help me create more videos for you. If this conversation was valuable for you today, please consider subscribing and hitting that notification bell so you don't miss our next one. Thank you so much for your time and your attention. My name is Olivia, and I'll see you in the next video.